Good morning, Julia.
Good morning. I saw that news. I've said my first response was, oh, dear God, Matt Hancock in the jungle. First of all, what was your reaction?
Oh, I mean, I just couldn't believe it. And, you've got someone here whose legacy as health minister is a trail of cultural and social destruction. I don't think that's overstating it. And, it is just so insensitive to the hundreds of thousands of people whose lives and livelihoods and educations were ruined by his decisions. And to think that he gets to move on this celebrity junket, well, actually, for many of the people who were impacted by his decisions, there is no moving on. They've lost their businesses. They've lost relatives. I mean, just, simply his pandemic response on care homes was responsible directly for tens of thousands of deaths of elderly people. It is absolutely horrific, actually, to think that he would think that this was a suitable next career
indeed
move.
I mean, the thing is, he's not the first serving MP to actually go into a celebrity. Nadine Dorries, former culture secretary, she did it as well. She was a celebrity in her own right for being a sort of celebrity author already, a very successful author. But we've seen the likes of George Galloway in Big Brother as well. Ed Balls went on to Strictly because that was after he left being an MP. But this is it. This is a man who's on a salary that, about 3 times what the average salary is in this country, on 84k plus, a load of other perks as well, including, the second home and things like that, which of course he needs now, being divorced after basically having to resign after cavorting with one of his aides as a married man during the lockdown period when we were supposed to be socially distancing. No social distancing going on in the health secretary's office at all, as we know, in Downing Street as well. But he's being paid to do a job that involves voting in Parliament, speaking in Parliament, doing casework for his constituents. But he's just arrived, in Australia. He's going to be totally incommunicado. We're told, he's going to be able to take a call from his constituency office. Oh, what a load of rubbish. That's not going to happen. Constituents left with no one representing them, helping him, while he picks up, we are told, a £330,000 payday.
I know. I mean, and it's just insulting, isn't it? And I think there's a wider point here about whether MPs should be able to have other interests, other paid income, whilst they're serving MPs. And there's very few jobs that would tolerate that, and it is totally disrespectful to the people of West Suffolk. I don't know if you saw what he said in The Sun. He wrote in The Sun today, and he said, I think it's a great opportunity to talk directly to people who aren't always interested in politics. I mean, are you joking? His people are in West Suffolk. That's where he needs
sit in the pub and talk to them. But also, how patronising. Oh, there's loads of people who just don't get there's no politics around at all on the telly or online. No one sees it at all. But they just watch it on ITV and I'm a Celebrity. I mean, lots of us manage to do both.
Exactly. And there's also actually, it goes totally against, of course, what his government are trying and to do with, on the environmental and sustainability side. Now, we might not agree with that, but, flying off to Australia... Seriously? What message does it send out?
Well, the message it sends out is that he's given up on his parliamentary career, hasn't he? Those red boxes are never coming his way again. We saw him being blanked gloriously by Rishi Sunak when he won the leadership. But the extraordinary thing is, look, he lost his the chief whip. The chief whip suspended him, lost the Tory whip immediately because he's not available to do the job. He'd been advised apparently not to do this, but he is still allowed to pick up his MP salary. I mean, he could go to Mars and he'd still be allowed to pick up his MP salary until the next election. There's some talk about people wanting to recall him, but again, I don't think the provisions even allow for that. And the good people of West Suffolk are stuck with this. But what do you make of? I mean, you and I have campaigned a lot against lockdown, and this, and in terms of the policies that we know he was a driving force in. There was a quad of people: the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, Michael Gove as Cabinet Office Minister, and Matt Hancock as Health Secretary, driving this, this sort of so-called safety first, COVID, masks, social distancing, more lockdown, more restrictions. He was driving an awful lot of this. There's a lot of people, the COVID-19 Bereaved Families for Justice campaign group, they are up in arms about this because so many of them lost loved ones in the early stages of the pandemic when there wasn't PPE, when as you mentioned, thousands of elderly patients were discharged from hospital without a COVID test into care homes where the most vulnerable people were, and seeded it in care homes, which led to, as you say, thousands of deaths that would never have happened otherwise. Well, certainly not at that time. I mean, he is cashing in on his notoriety, isn't he? We only know he's only famous enough for this to happen because everyone watched him every night when we were locked in our homes at those press conferences.
I think that's exactly right, Julia. I mean, we're laughing about this, but actually it's not at all funny, because the errors were so significant in their impact. And, you are talking about the deaths of tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people. And it is so disrespectful. There's also, of course, the point that we've got the COVID inquiry going on, and you'd have thought for that reason he ought to be in the UK. I mean, we know that the inquiry is poring over Boris Johnson's WhatsApp messages.
Yeah.
Why will they do the same with Hancock? How does he deal with that if he's not here? But I just think it just belies it. It belittles actually the errors that were made and the outcomes of those decisions, which are really, really serious matters. And there are people that say that actually it's a criminal matter, and you don't have to go that far to understand that it is. He oughtn't to be reducing himself and his career to a celebrity TV job.
And his memoirs, Pandemic Diaries, he just wants to sell some books, and again, huge sums of money he'll be getting for these things, and serialisation and the like. Meanwhile, many others are out of pocket. Really good to talk to you, Molly Kingsley.